seeking a village, or at least, let me find a better word.
Having a village.
Having a village, but I was going to say having expectations not met from your village.
But what were your expectations?
Ooh. Welcome to the NOIRPOISED podcast, where wisdom is power is more than just a motto.
It's our way of life.
Welcome back, guys, to the NOIRPOISED podcast. Something that I think most or many millennial parents are probably going through or have gone through, or maybe you didn't and you are fortunate and blessed to not have gone through it. But it's seeking a village, or at least, let me find a better word.
Having a village.
Having a village, but I was going to say having expectations not met from your village as a parent. That's something that we experienced and we're still experiencing now, and finding ways to be okay with our reality, or at least finding ways to seek a new village, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I've seen a lot of videos online on YouTube where parents are kind of like joking about it. In the Haitian culture, they call the new grandmothers city guns. So I'm sure, like I call my mom that sometimes.
But that's a new term, like...
I mean, it's kind of like, hopefully I'm saying the right term. If I'm not, I'll correct it. But it's this term that the Haitian generation that are young like us, that are raising kids, use for grandparents that are not really involved. Yeah, as much as like, because back in the day, right? I mean, I don't know your parents' experience, but when I hear my mom talk about when she was younger, or I hear aunts talk about when they were younger, or even in the back home in their country, there was always help. The help wasn't necessarily your mom or your aunt or
it was a
friend.
Village.
It was a village, literally. It was friends, it was neighbors, it was cousins, it was aunts and uncles. There was multiple elderly people. It was the elders from your church that were willing to openly help you.
Yeah.
Whatever help that looked like, whether it was cooking for you or watching the kids or coming to help you in the middle of the night after you have children. Here in America, we do not have that. Unless you are financially good and you're paying for it. So that's something we had to experience, because obviously we know it wasn't going to be like that. Right. We're here in America, like you have to work, you need 2 incomes for a household for most families and stuff. So for us, I think it was more so having expectations in our mind and then communicating some of them, but we didn't communicate everything. Yeah. And then realizing like, oh snap, not even 10% of this expectation is being met. I think that was it for us, because going into becoming a parent, I always knew that the village would be minimal, because that's the reality, right?
Well, before you move forward, let's talk about that expectation. Because when I thought about this topic, or not even when I thought about this topic, but when we first had our daughter, there were certain expectations that I had and certain expectations that I didn't have. For example, for me, I expected, being part of a Haitian community, us never having to worry about food. Because I thought in the beginning, there would be people, just bringing things
willing
consistently.
to cook for you.
Yeah. Like a revolving door kind of thing. Yeah,
ditto.
I didn't have the expectation that people would be here all the time, at least from my side. I didn't have that expectation. I had that expectation more so from your side.
Right, because I have a larger family.
Right, so when it didn't happen for you, I think that was one of the disappointments for me. But what were your expectations?
Ooh. I always say this. I think that's probably the top 3 wake-up calls for me becoming a parent, was realizing that the people you thought you had, you don't really have in the way that you thought you did. Not saying that they aren't still loved ones and they don't still care about you, but it was just a wake-up call for me. For some reason, I just always assumed that it's a baby. So who doesn't want to be there when a baby's involved? Of course, in the beginning, like there's boundaries, and we also had a kid like around where COVID was still a thing,
right,
and stuff like that. But my expectations, because I realized I was going in circles, my expectations, I thought people were going to be offering help more often. Well, not even more often, because the reality is they don't offer help. I thought people were going to be offering help. I do have a large family, but I'm close to specific people, if that makes sense. So I thought a lot of the older people would be around, to be honest with you. So when that didn't happen, it was kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I didn't take it too personal because people have their own lives. That was my thought. And we don't live super close to family as well. So I had to consider we don't live like 10, 15 minutes away. So that was something that I was like, well, I can't expect these older people to be driving back and forth all the time. I think for me, it was more so when a year went by and I was like, oh, snap. A whole year and no one made the effort to be as present.
Yeah.
Like I assume that, I can't have family over every week, every other week because we don't live super close. But I thought it was honestly going to be like, I'll see you every 1 to 2 months. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Enough where we can be like, oh, we're going to go grab brunch real quick. Like that's what the expectation was from you, at least part of it, because there was a lot more. But it would be that. So when that didn't happen, I was like, oh, okay.
Right. What I was going to say is I'm trying to be objective and trying to think of, is it us? Is it us as in you and I? Is it us as millennials? Because there's certain people who I thought had a village, who when I spoke to them, they said they didn't have a village. Yeah. And they had to technically buy their village because when you're hiring help, someone who's a stranger, who's not part of your family, you're buying a village. But I wonder if we automatically disqualified ourselves from having a village once we moved away from our village.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Personally,
realistically, I mean, you could look at it both ways.
I think it would be the same people.
The village could be the people, not necessarily the location, or it could be both the people and the location, or actually the location.
No, 100%. I think there's many factors, right? I do think distance is a factor. Like if you live in an area where your family's not there, obviously your village is not present. You assume that they will be there or present in different ways, though. Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah. That's why I say I don't think that's necessarily our situation, only because I don't see the village in other ways, if that makes sense. Obviously, they can't get here all the time. We can't get to them all the time. But a year is like, bro.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you got to be realistic, because that's actually something I thought about a lot. We've had conversations over and over where I even told you, I was like, maybe it's me. Like maybe people just don't want to be around me, like whether it was my side or your side. I was like, maybe it is me. Don't get me wrong. I do think there's different factors, because when you think of like the way millennials are raising their children versus how the generation before us did, we have more boundaries. We have more requirements that may be annoying to them. Yeah. That's a reality, right? So I could see that aspect of it on why they don't want to be present, because it's just like, there's too many rules. I can't just chill with this baby. It's always like, oh, don't do this. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, we don't do this anymore. Right. So I could see that side.
Because the people who I notice do have a village are the people who are usually more lax with the rules.
Who don't care.
Yeah, who don't care. Who's like, I mean, that's my mom. She knows
what she's doing.
That's my aunt. She knows what she's doing. Yeah. I think it's the people who, like you said, set boundaries, saying, I don't want this. I just learned that. Like we had a whole debate discussion with our parents talking about why we didn't want to give our daughter water for the first couple months. And that, broke them. They thought we were doing something evil, even if we had the proof, like this is why it's not good for them. So I could understand, to your point, why maybe our village or our potential village was just discouraged by all our rules or something. And that could be a trend, because millennials could be demanding.
I definitely think that could be a factor on a general aspect. But if we're honest, I don't think that's the case in our situation. But what I do is I put myself in people's shoes. And that's what makes me think of like the things that could be irritating. But that would be more understandable for like cousins, aunts. What's the explanation for immediate family? Because if I'm in the shoes of immediate family, if my sibling or my daughter has a kid, right? I wouldn't let boundaries like don't give water stop me from being present in that kid's life. That's the reality. So I think while, yes, that could play a role on a general aspect, there could be situations where that is the case. But I think in our case, it was pretty obvious that the village wasn't present from Jump Street. like from the beginning. It was before they were aware of boundaries. It was before they were aware of certain requirements and rules or what we do or don't like or whatever the case is. It was before that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the people who want to be present are present.
Right.
Yeah, it's like 1.5 people, but they're present regardless of what it is, they're present. So I don't think it's necessarily, it makes them uncomfortable or whatever the case is. And realistically, that also shouldn't be a factor.
Yeah, I agree. It shouldn't be a factor, but if we could zoom in away from us for a moment, because this is a common theme. We've heard this from so many different parents our age saying like they don't have a village, they have to count on a sitter, or maybe they have one person in their family member that they can really count on when they have like 15 different people that they expected to count on. So I'm trying to capture what is the global trend, like why is this happening, and what's your opinion on that?
Well, I do think some people don't have 15 people in general. Like, for example, your family is consisted of 4 other individuals and 2 of them are men. So some people really don't have that many people to count on. So there's that. And then I also think boundaries does play a part. I could see how it could be irritating for the people who are your village who probably just don't want to follow rules, because I have noticed even with the 1.5 people we do have, I could see irritation sometimes when we tell them like, oh no, we're not doing that. Oh no, this is how we do it instead. Or don't talk in that way because this is what it means.
Right.
I could see how it's irritating when it's a constant thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I guess in my mind, for some reason, I'm like, I don't see how that could be enough to not be there for someone who you consider to be in your village.
Right.
I guess that's where the difference is. So another factor is, what's a village, right? Some people need physical help in their villages, and some people need emotional support from their village. So it depends on what it looks like, because we could say we don't have a village because we don't have the physical help. But emotionally, if I want to get away, even though I can't, but let's say we had someone to watch the kid and I'm like, I want to go out for like 3 hours with someone. I can call on a few girlfriends that I can count on to be available for lunch to go out with me. So while, they're not babysitting my kid, but that's still considered some form of a village because it looks different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's different ways of providing help to parents. It's not always, I'll babysit for you. So it really is what support is needed from those parents, if that makes sense. So I do think sometimes we do have villages. It's just not in the way that we want the village to be active. So in our case, I think we do have a village. Like if we were to celebrate her birthday, people will show up.
Right.
They will provide gifts. You know what I mean? They'll be excited, but they're not showing up the way we would like them to show up. So then there's also the part of, are we expressing to our village what kind of presence we need from them? Right. So maybe it's a situation like that where some of the millennial parents are not expressing the type of assistance they need from their village. And so the village is not aware of what's needed. So that could be a thing too.
Yeah.
You know?
Now that you just said that, does it change your perspective on things as far as you having a village versus maybe it's a communication thing? Because for the people, and you don't have to be specific, but for the people who you would expect, or you would hit up to say, can you do X, Y, Z, whatever the case is, based off your answer, you're saying that they would say yes if you did ask.
No, I was saying that in a general aspect.
Gotcha.
Yeah, no, I've jokingly said it in front of some of the people in our village where I'm just like, y'all want to babysit?
Yeah,
and I've gotten literally no.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's that. I know there's probably like 1 or 2 friends that if I did ask, they would be willing to. But there's also the mindset like, I'm not going to add to your load.
Yeah.
You feel me? Like, I'm not going to add to the load that you already have. And then for me at least, and this could be the case for other moms, but if someone has actively not been present in the child's life from jump, they only see them virtually. You don't know the kid's character. You don't know what they're capable of. You don't know what they do. There has to be like some form of, you come around a few times so you get to know the child. And now me as a mom, I feel safe with you being with the kid. It's not always like, just because you've been a mom, that means you're going to drop off. Because I have people who have been moms in my life, and there are certain experiences that I had that till this day they don't know because they were not protecting me.
Right.
So in situations like that, I'm like, as a mom, I'm not willing to risk that. And I think a lot of millennial moms are also thinking the same. At least I'm assuming. I don't know. Y'all let me know. But I think as a parent, you often can't help, even though they say it's not good to do so, you can't help but think of your own experiences. And that then creates that protection. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to protect my kid. So if it's a situation like our aunts and our moms were always around and they came often and our daughter is fully aware and knows who they are, then it would become more comfortable. It's just like, oh, you're coming on Saturday? We can make plans.
Right.
We don't have that. They don't come. It's always a video call. You know what I mean? And she's at the age where she doesn't really want to be on video call. And we also don't use that much technology in our home. So we don't have the type of kid that like wants to, wants to be on technology. Like she wants to jump around and jump off the couches and play with toys and be active in that way. So the virtual thing, while I understand it, that's how people can be present. So you do what you can to make it happen.
Yeah.
But I can't then just wake up one day and be like, I'm going to leave you with my kid for a weekend.
Right.
There has to be like some gradual growth towards that. Like, for example, hopefully this changes by the time this episode goes out. I don't know. But keep in mind that we pre-record. Because currently right now, right, we had multiple conversations about this from before we had kids, while we were pregnant, during the kid, probably last week. It's a constant conversation in this home. But we talked about, if we decided to have a second one, what would that look like? What would we do different? How can we create a village? Because the reality right now is it's okay that we don't have I reword that. It's not okay. But it's doable right now because I'm not working corporate, right? But it's also holding me back because I'm unable to work because we don't have the village, right? So what would that look like if we did decide to have another child? We've talked about that. And I remember one of the things I said was, I'm going to start hitting up certain people and be like, come sleep over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And at the time when I said it, I probably had a drink. Were we out? I don't know.
I don't remember.
This was a while ago.
Yeah.
But maybe I don't even remember. But point is, I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. And I'm like, even that's not comfortable for me. That's not comfortable for me to like constantly have to ask people in my life to be present.
Yeah.
I feel like if I have a conversation with you once or twice and nothing is changed, then it is what it is.
I agree.
Like
I agree with that.
I learned to grow and appreciate you for how you can be there. Like I can't expect you to be there the way I want you to be there if I've spoken to you and you can't be there. That's what it is. But there are specific people, or at least one other person. I have an aunt who I'm like, all right, I'ma just see what she'd say. And I asked her, I was like, would you sleep over my house? She was like, why? If you have an emergency, yeah. And I'm like, no, not an emergency. Like, would you leave your husband and sleep over my house for a weekend just because kind of thing? And she was like, if you needed me, yeah. So I was like, bet. Copy. Name written. Starred VIP on my phone. Like, I was like, okay, so now I know that's someone, because she started coming around more though. Do you get what I mean? Like, you have to be around the child so I can see that, like, you know what to do with the kid. Just because you're a parent doesn't mean you know what to do. It's not just survival anymore. It's not just, I'm going to feed you, I'm going to clothe you. I have to make sure that you can actively be present with my kid and pay attention if she's being exposed to something she shouldn't be exposed to it too. Like, that's just what it is in my opinion.
If I had to go back and teach myself or give myself a few advice, I would say, one, don't assume that you'll have a village.
Yes.
And actually I just thought about this based off of what you just said. You have to learn to build your village.
Yes.
So it's not right to just say, you know what, I expect people to just, the floodgates to just open and then people just come into my home. Because I think sometimes we take the old school mindset and try to bring it to modern times. Like, old school mindset is, by the time the kids have or the adults have children, the mother or the grandmother's already, retired.
Not even, bro.
No,
but I get what you're trying.
yeah.
I get what you're trying to say.
The reason why, and this is something I thought about too, where
not just the mother. It's like aunts or like
right.
the grandmother.
But this is something I thought about
People
where
have grandmothers.
Men used to just be able to go out, work, and then come back home, and everything will be settled. But nowadays, you're seeing a lot of men not just wanting to step up, but having to step up. And I thought to myself, like, why is that? What changed? And I realized it's because the women don't have the village anymore.
Yeah.
So the man was always able to go out, do whatever he has to do. And I don't care. Well, I'm not saying I don't care, but the average job is not as taxing as being a parent. Like there's probably a few jobs on earth that's as taxing, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, as taxing as being a parent. So when a woman has, even if it's just one extra person, but has, friends, aunts, grandmothers, mothers, she's able to manage the home or go out and work, and it's not taxing to her because she has that help. But since she doesn't have that help now, the man has to kind of become somewhat of a substitute.
Right.
So one thing I had to learn is sometimes men, we have to not just learn to build our village, but learn how to be a substitute for the village. And I don't think if I had to go back in time and tell myself, I think that would be one of the best advice I could give myself is don't assume that you'll just have a village. Don't assume that because she's a woman, she just knows what to do. Yeah, because it's a guy's thought process where if I don't know, I'm going to figure it out. So we kind of look at women the same way, like you're a woman. It should be, it's almost like as silly as it sounds where a child is born and the man thinks as soon as the baby's born, all these motherly instincts just come rushing to you, and
to some extent.
But
I get what you're
know
trying
exactly
to say.
what to do. There was one time you told me, like, I'm trying to figure it out, just like you did. You are, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. I thought you knew everything. But to go back to the village, I think what you did with your aunt was brilliant, because now it's like sometimes I think people want to help, and with our personalities, sometimes I wonder if people think that we even need help, because we're not the type of person that's like, I'm dying, somebody come help me.
I've thought of, I've thought of that.
There's times when I think people got a hint of that and they offered help. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't want to say this on the podcast, but maybe we'll cut this. Who, when?
But it's only come after times where you're like, I'm not even going to fake it anymore.
I think the first year that definitely was probably the case where people maybe didn't know how to help. And we had that conversation, but I started being very vocal with certain family members, and it's usually immediate family where because people expected 1,000 phone calls a week or constant videos or constant this. And after a while it died down because realistically you're in it. You can't stop to, let's video call so-and-so, or let's send this video, or let's take this picture. I hardly remember to take pictures, even good moments, bad I hardly remember to take pictures because you're literally in it. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I would say, yes, I could see that. In our case, I think maybe the first year, but after the first year, I was very vocal. I was very vocal with parents. I was very vocal with siblings. And nothing changed. So I don't know. I'm trying to see what you're looking at. I'm trying to step outside of my body and see what you're saying or see what you just said. But it got to the point where, I don't know if you remember, I actively asked someone, they wanted to help, right? And I was like, okay, if you can come on this specific day, whenever you do come, if you can come on this specific day, this is the day where it's the hardest. This is the day I need you. And I later found out, probably a week or two later, the person, I even offered to pay this person. I said, we will pay you. But because we're not in a space where we can get someone else and pay and train and wait and so on and so forth, you're available this day, I will pay you to come because I already know what it is. You've already established a relationship. You know how things run. The person then went and picked up shifts on that specific day. So in a moment like that, it's I could see in the beginning that it could be, we're not being vocal, there's no communication, you're not asking. I get that. To some people till this day, I can say that may be the case, right? Certain aunts that I probably could vocalize more that I don't, right? But with immediate family, I don't think that's the case. The reality is, you can't force people to do what they don't want to do.
Right.
That's one. 2, you can't expect people to be there for you the way that you want them to be there for you. You learn to appreciate what they can provide and you're grateful for it. That's really my take on it. Like, I love that you gave what you would say to yourself if you had to go back. If I had to go back, it would be similar. I would tell people, like I would tell myself, operate as if you do not have a village. And so when people within your village do provide what they can provide, there's more an appreciation and a gratefulness with it. So now it's like, I know what it is. I don't love you any less. I just know what it is.
Right.
So if you decide to send a gift, cool, we're so grateful for it. But I know that that's your role.
Right.
You send a gift for Christmas and birthday, and that's okay. I'll teach her to appreciate that anyway. If it's someone who is willing to like give their time, like my sister, shout out to you, sis, you the MVP. Like I tell everyone, and I have no shame anymore. Before I felt bad, but I'm like,
no, she is.
Yeah, now it's to the point where our daughter, everyone sees it when our daughter's with her. When she's in the room, it's like,
we don't exist.
No one exists. Like no one else. It doesn't matter how many grandmothers, how many cousins, how many aunts and uncles are around. If MVP's in the room, MVP's in the room, and that's that.
Yeah. And
it's starting to show now where I can train my daughter but so much. There's going to come a point where she realizes, because she realizes now, where she's like, yeah, these are the people I see on video every once in a while. These are the people I see, you know, like if there's a party, like she's going to turn 5 one day and she's going to recognize that. And now I'm more so trying to find a healthy way to be able to explain to that. So she knows that her family still loves her.
Right.
Love just looks different.
Yeah.
I don't want her to have to go through trying to understand why doesn't Uncle so-and-so come around as much as like that Uncle so-and-so, because there are people who are within our village who don't babysit, but like
they're around more.
They're around. Yeah. Like we have a cousin who comes by with his girl on a regular basis to the point where our daughter asks regularly, like, where's Uncle so-and-so? Where's Auntie this?
Yeah.
Like we'll send voice notes of her asking. So she's seeing who's present physically now.
Yeah.
And so I think the goal for me now is to learn to appreciate what it is we have, because it's what they can offer. Right. It's what they can offer. And so I'm going to appreciate what you can offer and teach my daughter to appreciate that as well. So she doesn't hold any type of like bad feelings towards certain people. Like at the end of the day, you're going to know who operates this way and who operates differently. Yeah. So if I had to go back, I'd honestly say like, yes, communicate to the village, but have no expectations of the village. So that way, when you do communicate to the village and those expectations are not met, or they're not responding in the way that you ask them to respond, it's not causing issues within the family, but more so you're learning to just appreciate how they are and how they love and how they show up. Like that's my takeaway, honestly. If I had to do it again at this point, I'm like, all right, we got to get our money up. That's really where I'm at mentally, where I'm like, we need more money. Yeah. We need more money. And the few that I could be like, can you come sleep over? I'll do that. But the reality is it's like 1 or 2 people, if that. So
having this conversation is making me think that some people love selflessly and some people love selfishly. It's still, and I'm not saying it's targeted to anyone.
Yeah, I know.
Not just our story, but again, taking other people's story as well. It seems like people who are expected to be part of the village are like, I'm willing to be part of your village as long as it's more convenient for me. If this makes me uncomfortable, I'm not going to do this. And I think there's other people who are saying, you know what? I don't agree, but this is how you want it. So I'm still going to do it. In both situations, they love you, but some people love selfishly and some people love selflessly. And I think when you're able to understand that, that's when you're able to pick and choose who should be in your village and not.
I think that's fair. I think that's definitely fair. But ain't nothing wrong with buying the village.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
You know, it's never going to be as genuine as the village you grew up with. But I'm totally okay with buying the village now.
I think there's pros and cons now, because like in our situation, one of our main issues is people wouldn't respect our opinion. If we would say,
the people who don't buy that, the people who aren't bought.
Yeah, they won't respect your opinion. But you know that if you are hiring someone,
It's a job.
XYZ means XYZ.
Right.
You're not even going to have to worry about them crossing that boundary.
Yeah, so there's pros and cons.
Yeah.
So it's kind of easier. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see that, because we've had so many different situations where like we leave her with someone. I'm just like, I told you the opposite. You did the opposite. But it's just like, you just got to take what you can get. You're just like, I got this 2-hour break.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah. But shout out to y'all millennials doing it by yourselves too. Listen.
I mean, I've said it before. Millennials are the greatest generation.
You have. You did. He did.
You know,
he did.
I stand by that.
I don't know. But I do think we have awesome things. And I think this is one of them. Like learning, because the previous generations didn't have to do this. Like, I remember being a kid. We got dropped off in Philly for summers. We were dropped off at any aunt's house. Like, and your mom had no idea what was happening. There was no video calling. Yeah. There wasn't even cell phones like that at some point. It was just like, they trusted this person. They was like, yeah, go.
Right.
Like, I spent summers like literally in Philly, and I lived at I told you guys this, but I grew up with cousins at an aunt house kind of thing. So a lot of times the parents were working and they didn't know. I guess because millennials, it could be because we're so much more in tune emotionally and mentally and stuff like that, that we want to be more involved.
Right.
We want to know what my kid doing right now. Right. That's why a lot of daycares now have video access where parents can actually watch real time what their kid is doing. I think we're more aware of the dangers of the world now. Right. I think back then it was safer in everyone's mind until something happened and they're just like, I had no idea.
Right.
You know, whereas now we're like, we know what those I had no idea situations look like. And we're like, not my kid. Yeah. And that's where I'm at. I'm like, no, it's not going to be a situation where it happens and then now I have to deal with it. Yeah. We're trying to avoid the risks. And I think most millennials are doing the same. Yeah. Where we're all just trying to do better, be better. And it's not to say that our parents weren't, because they were probably better than their parents, you know, like, but that's the goal. We constantly improve with generations. So we're trying to do better and be better than they were, just like they were better than their parents were. So, you know what? Like I said, you learn to appreciate what you got. Definitely. And what you don't have, buy the village. Get your money up. Buy the village. That's what I'm finna do. Buy the village. And we're out. Oh, no. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow NOIRPOISED Podcast on Instagram, YouTube, rate the podcast on whatever platform you listen to it. I know on Spotify, you're able to do that. Leave a comment below on some more suggestions, because we're not providing all the answers. We're really just speaking from our experience. Right. So if you have some, you know, comments or feedback that you could provide people who are coming up now, who are becoming parents, who are parents and are in this type of situation and has helped you, definitely leave it down below. I feel like one of those YouTubers. Leave it down below. Leave a comment below, because even if people are not commenting, I know they'll definitely read. So I hope you're the bold one to do so. Thank you for listening. See you on the next one.
See you guys.
We're out. Thank you for spending your time with us. We hope you gained some knowledge today that'll promote poise in your life. We have new episodes uploaded every Thursday right here, same place, same time. Until next time, you can follow us on Instagram at NOIRPOISED Podcast to stay connected. That's NOIRPOISED Podcast. We'd love to hear your feedback.
And remember, your wisdom is power.
Thank you.